Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to Coffee Talk! All right, today we're talking about psychics, mediums, and fortune tellers. So just a reminder, Coffee Talk is for conspiracy theories, paranormal things, and other stuff that I think is interesting, but I don't necessarily believe in it. So today we're talking about these three things: psychics, fortune tellers, and mediums. And I really have separated these because I think they're three very different phenomenon that people often lump together. And so let's start first with what it is to be a psychic. Now, I do believe that psychics exist. Psychics are people who claim to have a supernatural gift from God that they can operate in, that allows them to look into you and see your secrets. It allows them to maybe see the future, potentially see your future. Psychics are not taught, they're born, essentially. Now, I have a natural God-given ability to make music. It is a supernatural ability. I don't call it a skill, I call it a gift. Now, is there a skill element to what I do as a musician? Absolutely, but I'm one of those weird musicians that weren't schooled or taught to play music. I wasn't made, I was born. So I was just born having a musical gift and ability. And of course, I've taken my gift and ability and I've honed it over time and perfected it and adapted it for my own uses and purposes. So, like a supernatural musical gift, a psychic's gift, he can use it however he wants. He can use it to better mankind, he can use it to advance himself, or he can use it for evil purposes to manipulate and control other people. And it is his gift, so it is his or hers gift, and so it belongs to them, and they can use it however they want, just like a musician who can use it to play in church, or I can use it to play in a nightclub and make money for myself, or I can use it to advance the kingdom of darkness, depending on how I operate and how I use that skill. And that, well, it's a talent, not a skill, really. So psychics are the same way. They have a natural gift. And I do believe that those psychics exist because part of my musical gift has a psychic element to it, in the fact that musicians who play at my level, prodigy musicians, people who are born knowing how to do this, we can communicate without words on stage. So we can improvise music, make it up out of whole cloth without having a discussion about what we're doing. We just do it and it happens. Now, not every musician can do that. Most cannot. Only a select few people who have this supernatural God-given ability can operate on this higher level that has this psychic concept to it. I talked about before how when I'm singing backup behind a lead singer, if I don't even know the song, if I've never heard it before, many times I receive the lyric of the song a split second before it comes out of the mouth of the singer, even though I don't know the song, which allows me to sing along with a singer on a song I've never heard before and be able to sing harmony notes to a melody that I'm hearing for the very first time. That's pretty impressive skill and ability, and I don't take credit for it. It was God that did it for me, or did it to me. And psychics are very much the same way. They have the ability to see past the veil of normal human relation. And so they can kind of see into your soul. They can pick up vibes off of a person. And it allows them to... I mean, some psychics get audible clues where this voice will speak to them. Other psychics have a knowing. They just know things about you. And other psychics will see pictures or images or little clips of video, and they have to fill in the blanks. One thing I can say about all of these psychic gifts, they're never 100% totally reliable insofar as you can really control them. It's more like, God uses you when he wants to use you, you know? And some psychics are able to use part of their gifting and ability on demand, and sometimes they don't get the full ability and a full gift unless they're kind of doing what God presented them to do. And that's another thing about these natural gifts. Whether you're a musician or a psychic, God tends to have a plan for you. And you can rebel and do everything else you want to and go behind God's back and go against his plan. And eventually, sooner or later, you're going to, no matter how hard you try, you're going to find yourself back in a position where God is trying to use you for a specific purpose. And sometimes people with supernatural abilities and gifts have a really bumpy life. Kind of reminds me of Jonah, who was sent to Nineveh in the Bible, and he decided he didn't want to go, but he was going by hook or by crook, even if it was on a ship or in the belly of a whale. He was going to his location. He did not have a choice. And that is kind of the same way about people who operate in the natural gifts and abilities, because, in so many ways, those are a gift to you, but they're kind of on loan from God, to quote, Rush Limbaugh, with talent on loan from God. That's how I feel like my talent's on loan from God. So psychics, I think, have a God-given natural ability, but so many times we mix them up with these other kinds of people, fortune tellers and mediums. So let's talk about a fortune teller. Now, I think a fortune teller is somebody who is probably utilizing medium skills. So actually, let's talk about the mediums first, and then we can better understand fortune tellers. Mediums are people who don't claim to have a natural gift or ability. They don't claim to be reading your mind. They claim to be hearing voices from the other side. So many times this is someone they think is a dead relative, or potentially a spirit guide of some sort. But they're communicating with, some claim, the dead. Others claim they're communicating with demons. And others claim that they're communicating with spirit guides or non-earthly entities, maybe interdimensional beings. Of all of the three things, of all of the three types, psychic, fortune teller, and medium, I think the medium is the most dark and the most dangerous because they don't have a way to discern who they're talking to. And some just straight up say they're talking to demons. Some just straight up say they're talking to interdimensional beings. I think that this medium thing can also be tied to DMT. Some people are taking drugs to break down this barrier and get what others might have naturally. They're trying to attain that through some kind of altered state so that they can talk to spirits. So mediums get their information from, the Long Island medium is one of the obvious ones that's on television. She can be standing there talking to you and then look to the side in an empty space and say, your dead relative's name so-and-so is standing there next to me talking about you. So this violates some basic tenets of God's law and God's commandments, that we're not supposed to interact with the dead. We're not supposed to involve ourselves in necromancy, which is the wooing and the romancing of dead spirits, essentially, or being seduced by or fooled by or fished in by these spirits that claim to be our dead relatives. I think possibly they might be demons. Also, there are people, I think, that claim to be mediums when really they're psychics. They're really not getting information from your dead relatives. It's easier to sell that story to some people, so they're just using their psychic abilities in that regard and kind of faking the medium portion of it and just relying on their own gifting. And that brings us to the third kind of person, which is the fortune teller. Now, I believe that fortune tellers are people who do not have a natural gift or ability, and they are not, they don't believe that they're calling on mediums, but they're using things like tarot cards and palm reading and phrenology, which is reading the lumps on your head, or the tea leaves, they throw the tea leaves, or these kind of fortune tellers are people, because I don't believe there's any power in a tarot card. I don't believe there's any power in tea leaves. I don't believe you can throw some bones down on the ground and look at the pattern and tell the future. So all of these are fakes. They're fakes. Now, fortune tellers are fake. However, I think many fortune tellers are actually either psychics or mediums, and they're using the fortune teller edge as a marketing tool or an excuse or a way to explain to people their powers and abilities. So they'll blame the deck of cards and say that it's some kind of psychic message, when really a fortune teller can be one of three things. They can be a total fake and a charlatan, where they're going to lay these out and they're going to paint a picture that's very generic and works for everyone, and maybe gives you goosebumps because you can relate to their fortune telling, to their story for you, because it's so vague and relatable by everyone, but yet you have that feeling like, oh, they're talking about me. Oh. So you're fished in, right? So there's those fakes who just use the cards to make up generic stories. Those are, fake fortune tellers. And then there are psychics who just use the cards or the palm reading as an excuse to get close to you. I had a blind psychic read my palms one time at a nightclub. He had a little kiosk set up at a bar, doing palm reading. So he was blind, though, which I found it was interesting. He would just hold your hand and feel the lines in your palm with his finger. And I realized right away that this guy was just a genuine, bona fide, born psychic with a God-given ability. And he was just using the palm reading as an excuse to hold your hand and connect with you on a psychic level. Of all the psychics that I've encountered outside of the church, this guy was definitely the most real and the most believable and the most tuned in of any psychic I've ever seen. I don't have a problem with psychics because I think, like musicians, they have a God-given talent. They can use it however they want to. But I have a real problem with fortune tellers and mediums. So this guy was employed as a fortune teller, but really he's a psychic. He holds my hand and he reads my mail, and it's not unlike what Pentecostal people will do under the guidance of the Holy Spirit when they read your mail or give you a prophetic word. A lot of times it helps to touch that person, hold their hands, look into their eye. It helps with the connection. And so, it's like the thing I was talking about, how I can pull up those lyrics before the lead singer sings them. I can, but I have to stare at the side of his face. If I don't stare at the side of his face, I don't get the connection. I can't look out there at the crowd and sing. I got to look at the side of his face, and then I can pick up on that link. And I think that's psychics a lot of times. They need that physical connection. They need to look into your eyes or hold your hand. And so palm reading, tarot cards, all the stuff like that are really just a tool in many cases for genuine psychics. So when you go to a fortune teller or you engage in any of this paranormal investigation for yourself, it's very confusing, because the fortune tellers and psychics, they're just all kind of intermingled between charlatans, people that are acting as mediums, and people that are actually psychic. Hang on, need some coffee. Now, some Christians would say that anybody operating in any supernatural gift outside of the church is of the devil. Well, prove that. Okay, so that's convenient for you to just make a blanket statement like that without giving me any research or background. The bottom line is, God gifted people with the ability to see through the veil for a reason. And many of the psychics are either on a mission from God, or they're on their own, but yet at the same time, just like me, I'm not on my own. God's guiding me, because he gave me this gift, and it's a tool loose in the world, and he intends to use it. So even when I think I'm being a wild honky-tonker, before you know it, I'm praying some poor drunk guy through and introducing him to Jesus backstage. And I've done that more than once. I've gone out to be a big wild partier and use my gift for fun and money, just to find myself backstage with the lead singer crying on my shoulder, and me ministering to him and telling him that, God can heal his pain, that Jesus is here for him. So I think a lot of times people who have been given this psychic gift are actually on a mission we're on a mission from God. We're on a mission from God. Blues Brother reference. Yeah, they're on a mission from God, and they don't even know it. They think they're running their own lives when, in fact, God keeps putting people in their path so they can use their gift for what it was intended for, to help people. And so, now, mediums, I think, are definitely the most dangerous. I think most of them are entertaining evil spirits. These demons are pretending to be family members. And sure, they know everything about your family member, because they many of these demons are demons that were attached to or following or assigned to your family member. So yeah, they know about your family member's life because they've lived it with them. Imagine that for a minute. Demons that are assigned to human beings that follow them around and catalog everything they do and try to manipulate and control them throughout their life. So yeah, these people, these mediums, are able to see through the realm, see this demon associated with your family, a familial demon, a familiar spirit, a family spirit, and yeah, they can get information from that individual, and that demon can pretend to be your dead family member. But really, it's just, this demon was just assigned to your family member and a witness to their life. So yeah, they know all kinds of stuff, secret stuff that you probably don't even know about your family member. Because, you can't hide from the supernatural. It can see you when you think it can't. Both sides. And, so, yeah, mediums are very dangerous. They are dealing with familiar spirits, and they are conjuring spirits, and they're in violation of God's law. And so because of that connection, because of the medium connection to psychics and fortune tellers, many people, well, there are psychics that are pretending to have a God-given gift when really they're mediums. So it goes both ways. There are people pretending to be fortune tellers who are actually psychic, and there are people pretending to be psychic when they're actually mediums. So if you ever do, I don't really recommend dabbling in this. I've only investigated it because I'm extremely spiritually strong, and these people don't know who they're messing with. So if I can get one, usually mediums won't sit down with me because their demons shake. They tremble. They run away from me. They hide from me. And if you want to know why, just listen to my song "Exorcist from Texas," and you'll hear a little bit of my biography there. But the devils are afraid of me because I know who I am. I know that I am joint heirs with Christ. I know that I am under the control of God and not the evil one, and that scares them to death. So it's hard for me to get mediums to sit down with me. That's why I encounter more psychics, because they're neutral. Most of them, unless they're also dabbling in being a medium. But most psychics don't need to, because their skills and abilities, their God-given natural talent to read people's mail is superior to a medium who's listening to a demon. And the information you can get from a psychic is way more useful. And so these are the differences between a psychic, a medium, and a fortune teller. Just to recap, a fortune teller, I think, once again, this is a coffee talk, so this is all my opinions. I don't believe that all fortune tellers can read your mail, because some of them are just faking it. Some of them are mediums, and you may not want to take the advice. I would not recommend taking the advice of a medium, because it's probably coming from a demon, since interacting with the dead is prohibited in God's commands. So, but psychics, on the other hand, I think are just like musicians. They're exhibiting a natural skill and ability. So what do you think? Should all of this stuff be avoided? That's easy if you don't have that God-given psychic ability, but if you're born with that, it's really hard to ignore it. Furthermore, I don't think God wants you to ignore it. Think about the people who got a phone call in the middle of the night that said, "Don't get on that airplane. I saw it crash." And they didn't, and their life was saved because the airplane crashed. There's hundreds of stories like this where, there were people now that's going to open another can of worms, because some would say this was a warning from someone that knew what was going to happen. But there were people on 9/11 who got strange phone calls that just said, "Don't go to work today. Don't go to work today." And I think a great portion of these have been tracked down. And they were mediums, or psychics rather, not mediums. They were psychics who knew what was going to happen. They had a premonition, a precognitive moment. And so I think many people involved in big tragedies many times are spared, because God uses someone with a psychic ability to warn them, to intervene in some way, to make sure that they aren't there while the thing is going down. So I do believe in psychics. Don't need any coffee for that. I don't believe in fortune tellers necessarily, because I think they're either mediums or psychics. And mediums are in league with the devil, whether they realize it or not. You know, the Bible tells us that demons come disguised as angels of light. So if you think you're talking to an angel, you might want to make sure. You might want to find a way to clarify, because chances are they're operating on a, in a subversive way, listening to the demonic. So tell me what you think in the comments section. Is any of this real? Should we avoid all of it? Or do you need discernment to know one from the other? Tell me what you think in the comments section below.